The Secret to Nirvana in One Lifetime of Vajrayana. Welcome back everyone to Mind Podcast. Why do Buddhist masters often teach extensively about Zen and Pure Land Buddhism, but not about Vajrayana? Does this mean that Vajrayana does not lead to liberation and enlightenment? If one practices Vajrayana, how can they avoid falling into the trap of false paths or heresy? The images and forms of Vajrayana disciples are often seen in the mudra, sacred hand gestures, posture, chanting mantras, or performing what seem to be forbidden rituals. Is this truly appropriate, and does it really help us reach the state of nirvana? Today, let us explore the true nature of Tibetan Vajrayana, also known as the diamond vehicle, Vajrayana. Among the methods that the Buddha taught for sentient beings to follow in their practice during the degenerate age, each tradition has its own supreme and profound principles. For example, the Pure Land School's principle is to ensure rebirth in the Pure Land in one lifetime without regression. Zen Buddhism focuses on directly pointing to the mind, seeing one's Buddha nature, and attaining Buddhahood. The Huayan School focuses on transcending the mundane world and entering the Dharma realm. Vajrayana's core principle is the union of the three secrets, which leads to becoming a Buddha in one body. These three secrets are the secret of body, secret of speech, and secret of mind. First, we need to affirm that, although there are many different methods of practice that the Buddha taught, each with different principles, they all lead to the same ultimate goal: liberation from the cycle of birth and death, and attaining nirvana. Vajrayana is one of the schools of Buddhism that originated in India around the 7th century and was later transmitted to China, Japan, and especially flourished in Tibet. Tibetan Vajrayana, also known as the diamond vehicle, is likened to a steep, direct path to the summit of a mountain. This analogy highlights both the superior and swift nature of the practice, as well as the challenges and dangers associated with this method of Vajrayana practice. The development history of Vajrayana has sometimes veered off course from the path of liberation as intended by Buddhist ideals due to the appearance of magical rituals and sorcery. These deviations have severely damaged the reputation of Vajrayana. However, thanks to the efforts of Tibetan masters in spreading Vajrayana, the true meaning of this tradition has been clarified. Vajrayana, or the diamond vehicle, is a special path to liberation within progressive Buddhism. As previously mentioned, the principles of Vajrayana are the three secrets: secret of body, secret of speech, and secret of mind. To harness the energy of the universe or spiritual energy, one must correctly practice the rituals of body, speech, and mind. The body is involved through gestures, particularly the hands, which accompany the chanting of mantras, creating a suitable spiritual attitude. The mouth chants the mantras, which are sacred sounds that stir the inner world of the practitioner. The mind visualizes the mandala, unifying everything into the three secrets of the Buddha. This combination of transcendental teachings with the mandala forms a unique integration, in which the universe, the world, humanity, and all things are viewed as sacred. For a Vajrayana practitioner, this represents the relationship between spirit and matter, between human beings and the universe, filled with boundless energy. The symbols of Vajrayana are often misunderstood and criticized. However, once one dives deep into the ocean of the mind, the true function and meaning of these symbols become clear. They are the means of expressing the deepest spiritual experiences of the practitioner. The philosophy and practice of Vajrayana still follow the process of morality, sila, concentration, samadhi, and wisdom, prajna, just like all other Buddhist paths. It has strong ties to both Theravada and Mahayana teachings. The difference lies in the method used to realize emptiness and non-self. Vajrayana uses mystical methods as a means to enlightenment. The development of Buddhism has created various schools and different methods of practice. Any method that leads to faith, removes inner obstacles, and helps the mind realize ultimate liberation is permitted for use. Vajrayana as a means to liberation. Vajrayana is one of the methods that can lead to liberation. To become a practitioner of the diamond vehicle, Vajrayana, one must often employ various practices to purify the three karmic activities: body, speech, and mind, transforming them into the body, speech, and mind of a Buddha. On the journey of taming the mind and becoming the Dharma body of a Buddha, The practitioner must experience Vajrayana teachings directly transmitted by a qualified teacher. Vajrayana has 4 key attributes. 1. Yogic practice of thoroughly purifying the surrounding environment. 2. Yogic practice of thoroughly purifying the physical body. 3. Thorough purification of all feelings and sensations. 4. Yogic practice of thoroughly purifying all actions. Any teaching that includes these 4 purifications belongs to Vajrayana. 500 years after the Buddha entered Nirvana, we see that the structure of cause and effect, including the structure of our own stream of consciousness, has significantly weakened. We are now in the degenerate age, Kali Yuga, which makes it even more difficult for practitioners to embark on the path of liberation. Therefore, Vajrayana uses anything that a person can integrate into their body and mind to move toward liberation. This aligns with a famous saying, if a person has fallen to the ground, they must use the ground itself to stand up. This saying emphasizes the method, technique, and practical means that characterize Vajrayana. Much of the debate surrounding Vajrayana today focuses on the consort practices, sexual yoga. The image of a Buddha embracing a consort is often seen as inappropriate and contradictory to the Buddha's teachings, even being labeled as a form of moral corruption. Some teachers even interpret Vajrayana as a licentious practice. According to Vajrayana, all beings in the desire realm are made up of coarse material elements, and desire always exists within us. Those from the form realm and beyond do not have such desires because their bodies are composed of purer and subtler elements compared to ours. The artistic expression, whether through drawings or sculptures, serves to illustrate that to transform the 5 aggregates and this impure world into enlightenment, practitioners must transcend the challenging limits of desire. The Buddha said that the greatest flaw of sentient beings is ignorance and attachment. They live day and night in attachment and cannot let go. If one can transform lustful desires into mindfulness of the Buddha's teachings and practice every hour and every minute without forgetting, they will quickly attain Buddhahood. A Lama also said that the Dharma body is very subtle, pure, and free from lustful desires. The subtlety and purity of a bodhisattva's body are even more refined and pure than the body of an invisible being. Thus, the consort image of the deities naturally has no trace of desire left. We often have a habit of looking at Buddha statues with the eyes of an ordinary person, which is entirely mistaken when saying, this male deity is united with this female deity. However, if you observe the statue with the vision of a meditator, you will see something completely different. The Buddha in the statue is entirely in a meditative posture, with no attention paid to the female figure in the image. The female figure and the posture that seems like an embrace only symbolize the blissful state of meditation. Anyone who has meditated deeply and entered concentration will understand the joy found in the meditative realm when hormones are released that create a feeling of euphoria after the body reaches a state of complete relaxation. The statue also serves to show all beings that when they practice, they are still heavily influenced by past karma. Deep in their consciousness, attachment karma has not yet been severed because wisdom has not yet fully replaced ignorance. This external depiction of the mind reflects what remains within. Instead of avoiding it, why not face it to dissolve and treat the root cause? Attachment karma drives us through the cycle of birth and death. Just like someone who has fallen to the ground must use the ground to stand up, Buddhism is here to be practiced, not merely admired or judged. Additionally, the cultural origin of the image of the Buddha embracing a female figure is also tied to philosophical perspectives. In yin, there is yang, and in yang, there is yin. Every person has both yin and yang within them. This unusual Buddha statue also expresses that yin-yang philosophy. The sexual relationship between male and female has always been a part of ancient Eastern philosophy. It reflects the harmony of yin and yang. When yin and yang are united, the human body reaches a state of health and clarity. The practices of Vajrayana Buddhism are the result of combining Mahayana Buddhism with 2 ancient traditions, yoga and tantra. Yoga and tantric practices were traditionally practiced separately, but Tibetan Buddhism merged and intertwined them, creating powerful and effective methods. Initially, yoga was thought to be a practice uniquely characteristic of India. However, in China, Japan, and other cultures, forms of meditation, dhyana, also existed with different techniques. Ancient wisdom suggested that meditation was a method to unite the body and mind with a singular focus and clear purpose. Yoga is one of the initial exercises for training in meditation. Yoga is described in the epic Bhagavad Gita, which recounts the famous dialogue between the god Krishna and Prince Arjuna. Krishna enumerates various methods for training the body, mind, and emotions to focus on a common goal. Arjuna faces a difficult choice as he stands on the battlefield, where he must choose which side to fight for, even though both sides include his family members. This is an uncomfortable situation. After meeting with Krishna, the battle in front of Arjuna took on a different meaning. It became an act of morality, discipline, and responsibility. The Bhagavad Gita provided methods for concentrating the mind in order to deal with life's challenges in the best possible way, even during the most difficult moments. So what is the meaning of yoga? According to the Webster Dictionary, yoga means the method of bridling the horse, representing the body, and connecting it to the chariot, representing individual consciousness, and then bridling the horse of individual consciousness to connect it to the chariot of universal consciousness. Yoga focuses on concentrating the mind, leading to a state of absorption, samadhi, and erasing the limits of the human condition, with the goal of freeing individual consciousness to realize the greater consciousness of the universe. With a concentrated mind, the practitioner links their consciousness to any object of meditation. Using the concentrated power of a disciplined inner mind, the practitioner bridles their individual consciousness to connect it with the chariot of the universal consciousness, or true nature. Tibetan Buddhism uses consciousness combined with logical reasoning to focus the mind. In this process, ignorance is seen as incorrect perception, and in order to achieve clear perception, the practitioner uses single-pointed awareness. The practice of yoga is like the reins used to control and make the mind one-pointed. This method of meditation allows the practitioner to connect with the ultimate reality, absolute truth, or dharmakaya. Buddhist yoga differs from Indian yoga in some terms and methods, but they share essential similarities. The goal of Indian yoga is to merge the individual spiritual essence with the universal spirit, uniting the individual with the entire cosmos. In Buddhism, the unification of individual consciousness with the ocean of the Dharma is referred to as entering Nirvana, realizing and following the light of wisdom. Tibetan Buddhism uses philosophical insights from the Yogacara school as the foundation for yoga practice. The preliminary yoga practices help cleanse the mind of diluted thoughts, preparing it for the revelation of the true essence. This true essence, like a mirror reflecting all phenomena, reveals itself to be an integral part of the perfect Dharmakaya. Through meditation and yogic practice, Tibetan practitioners can experience this essence and thereby merge with Nirvana. What is Tantra? To this day, no one knows the exact origins of Tantra. Tantric practices appeared very early, and some forms of these practices have been present in many ancient cultures that have only recently been discovered. The term Tantra refers to continuity and interweaving, but no single definition has been universally established. Tantra includes many sets of practices, often aimed at actions that unite body and mind. All spiritual practices developed in India were used by the Brahmanical religion until around the 7th century, when Tantric practices began to merge with Buddhism, a religion that had been developing in India for over 1,000 years with a vast monastic system and monumental statues. At that time, some practitioners of Buddhism felt that certain followers had strayed too far from the original, pure spiritual light that the Buddha had intended. Tantric practices also proposed methods for achieving enlightenment in this very lifetime. Previously, Indian Buddhist traditions believed that one had to go through an immense amount of time, countless lifetimes, before reaching full enlightenment. However, according to Mahayana Buddhism, it is possible to attain full enlightenment in this very lifetime and within this body. Tantra carefully presents a method that directs human behavior toward enlightenment. Through tantric practices, practitioners can cleanse their egos and expand their consciousness to embrace reality. In the tantric path, practitioners typically seek a guru, spiritual master, to guide them, helping them avoid obstacles and stay focused on the path to enlightenment. There are two forms of tantra, left hand and right hand. In Tibetan Buddhism, tantra goes by several different names, such as indestructible vehicle and Vajra vehicle, though all tantric vehicles are collectively known as Vajrayana. Just like a vehicle or train that transports us to a designated destination, tantric practices similarly and swiftly guide practitioners on the path to enlightenment. Vajra, diamond, is known as the hardest material, representing purity, clarity, strength, and unbreakability. Vajrayana, the diamond vehicle, encompasses these qualities of a diamond, combining practice and wisdom into an indestructible and perfect unity. The bodies and consciousness of practitioners who follow these methods are elevated. Successful practitioners become Vajra beings, indestructible beings. Vajrayana is for those with great compassion and strong will, people who wish to save others and are determined to quickly attain enlightenment. It requires unwavering effort to develop spiritual power and endure the hardships of following the tantric path. So, what happens when yoga and tantric practices merge in Tibetan Buddhism? Yoga combines with tantra to reveal the treasure of enlightenment. Tantric practices are like maps that guide the body and mind of the practitioner toward nirvana. The concentration of yoga acts as an inner light that clarifies the map. With the stillness and mastery achieved through yoga, the practitioner carries out the tantric rituals, practices that turn physical experiences into experiences imbued with enlightenment. When practitioners use their willpower and concentration in conjunction with tantric practices, they are considered to have mastered life and death. Tibetan Buddhism also accepts action yoga and encourages practitioners to use all of their sensory experiences to awaken different aspects of enlightenment within their own mind. Practitioners who know how to use their senses and emotions can transform them into windows that open up to a higher realm of consciousness. Meanwhile, symbols in Tantra help stimulate intuitive understanding, allowing practitioners to experience nirvana. This consciousness, this body, and this world are all paths that lead to nirvana. There is nothing else beyond this. The transcendent essence of the Dharma is living and working, making a living while simultaneously moving toward enlightenment. Any practitioner who works sincerely and maintains a mature attitude will see their spiritual life become clear. All opposing forces, if any, will dissolve into a unified whole between the individual and the universe. In the daily struggles of earning a living, whether our work holds great meaning or is simply a way to make a living, all of our sweat and tears in life and in our jobs are transformed into spiritual practice. Everything becomes material that we can use to nurture our awareness. Our mindful actions become steps on the spiritual path. Our aspirations and sincere focus on enlightenment will make even the ordinary shine with transcendent colors, turning life into something multifaceted and harmonized. The realm of nirvana will gradually unfold. Tantric practices do not contradict the use of analytical reasoning to learn and experience. Through intense concentration gained from practicing the tantric path, practitioners break down the world and recognize that it is merely a construct of concepts. Therefore, advanced practitioners can free their minds from the grasp of these concepts, realizing boundless benefits. The ultimate goal of tantric practices is to attain enlightenment by living fully with our physical, emotional, and spiritual energies. It begins with the power of mindfulness and concentration at the coarse levels of consciousness, progressing to stable and natural mindfulness at the subtle levels of consciousness. The practitioner's power grows step by step alongside the refinement of consciousness. Eventually, the practitioner develops extraordinary powers, overcoming the limitations of time and space, defeating gravity, and mastering death. Why did Buddha allow the consumption of meat? Welcome back, everyone, to Mind Podcast. Before starting the video, I want to ask you a question. Do you think Buddhism prohibits monks from eating meat? Many viewers may assume that, of course, Buddhism forbids the consumption of meat and prioritizes vegetarianism. However, the reality is not that straightforward. Only the monks of Chinese Buddhism are strictly prohibited from eating meat. In contrast, Tibetan lamas, Theravada Buddhist monks in Asia, and even monks in India, the birthplace of Buddhism, are permitted to eat meat. In Japan, monks can even marry and have children. So what is the reason behind this? And is it truly justified? Let's explore this in today's video. According to Theravada Buddhism, whether or not one practices vegetarianism depends entirely on the individual's choice. They believe that Buddhism does not emphasize the purity and sanctity of food, but rather the purity and sanctity of the mind. This issue is often fiercely debated, primarily by those following Mahayana Buddhism, which advocates for vegetarianism, and by those who discuss Buddhism based on the precept of non-harming, ahimsa. We need to understand that Theravada Buddhism, also known as the Southern School, still follows the practice of almsgiving, receiving food offerings, just as it was during the time of Buddha Shakyamuni. Buddhism encourages monks to renounce all worldly attachments. Once you become a monk, you must give up the pursuit of making a living. It is only by doing this that one can fully focus on practicing and attaining enlightenment. Monks do not engage in labor or production, but still need to eat to maintain daily energy. Therefore, the only way to live is through almsgiving, or in other words, begging for food. This is also a form of ethical practice followed by various schools of thought in India at the time. They believed that by giving alms to monks, people could form good karmic connections with all beings and foster a bond with the Buddha. There is an opportunity to perform acts of giving, almsgiving, to accumulate merit, which is why most people see Theravada Buddhist monks practicing almsgiving. When monks practice almsgiving for food, they are not allowed to request specific types of food from those offering, as one might do in a restaurant. Therefore, from the time of the Buddha until today, this tradition has maintained the practice of receiving whatever is offered. Secondly, Theravada Buddhism supports vegetarianism in a specific form known as threefold pure meat. This means there are 3 types of meat that monks are permitted to eat. First, meat from an animal they did not see being killed. Second, meat from an animal whose cries they did not hear during slaughter. And third, meat from an animal that they have no reason to believe was killed specifically for them. Monks who consume food under these conditions are not violating the precept of non-harming. This was established by the Buddha and is recorded in the Vinaya, monastic rules. It is said that while the Buddha was preaching, a monk named Devadatta proposed to the Buddha that all monks should be strictly vegetarian, prohibiting the consumption of any meat or fish. The Buddha straightforwardly rejected this proposal. The Buddha likely had practical reasons and took into account the social circumstances of the time. For example, vegetables were not abundantly cultivated in the northern regions of India in ancient times, especially during dry seasons when crops like vegetables and grains were scarce. Later on, in regions like Tibet, where livestock was plentiful but vegetables and fruits were nearly non-existent, strict vegetarianism would have posed significant challenges. This shows how far-sighted the Buddha was, able to foresee the future needs of humanity. From the Buddha's time until today, Theravada Buddhist monks have continued to live by almsgiving, receiving food based on the generosity and offerings of lay followers. If monks were to require only vegetarian food, it could unintentionally burden the lay people who provide them with daily meals. In reality, the majority of people in these regions take time each day to prepare food for offering to the monks, and only afterward do they cook for their own families. Most of these Buddhist families also follow a meat-inclusive diet, as has been the tradition since the time of the Buddha. Thus, Theravada monks accept and eat whatever is offered to them, including meat, as long as it falls within the threefold pure meat guidelines, as mentioned earlier. Regarding the monastic code, Theravada Buddhism prohibits monks from receiving alms in the form of money. As a result, they cannot buy food or choose what they eat. Even if they wish to be vegetarian, they are entirely dependent on the alms offered to them by villagers or lay followers. Even when meals are prepared in the monastery, the ingredients used are those donated daily by the lay people. In contrast, Mahayana Buddhism, especially in China, does not accept this form of eating. They believe that a strict vegetarian diet is necessary, and monks should abstain entirely from meat and fish, consuming only vegetables, fruits, and beans. Why is there such difference between Theravada and Mahayana Buddhism? This difference can be traced back to an emperor from ancient China named Xiaoyan, also known as Emperor Wu of Lian, who ruled during the Southern Dynasties period. Emperor Wu was a devout Buddhist who contributed significantly to the spread of Buddhism. During his reign, he built hundreds of temples to promote the religion. Moreover, Emperor Wu himself renounced the throne 3 times to become a monk, dedicating himself to chanting and reciting Buddhist scriptures to seek blessings for his people. Emperor Wu was a devout follower who is said to have read almost every Buddhist scripture. His favorite was the Shorangama Sutra, in which the Buddha teaches that those seeking true concentration, samadhi, should aim to transcend worldly attachments. If the mind of killing is not eradicated, one cannot escape suffering, even if they possess great concentration and meditative power. If one doesn't fully renounce the intent to kill, they are destined to fall into the realm of ghosts and spirits. Those at the highest level will become powerful demons. Those at the middle level will become flying spirits or ghost wolves. And those at the lowest level will become earthbound spirits. Among these demons, there are some who, in the past, were on the path to supreme enlightenment. But after my passing, during the age of decline, these ghostly beings will spread throughout the world. Not only does eating meat prevent one from attaining enlightenment, but it also leads to rebirth as lower beings. You should know that those who eat meat may seem to have reached some level of enlightenment, but they are still of the nature of killing. Once their merit is exhausted, they will inevitably fall into the sea of suffering. They are not true disciples of the Buddha. Such people harm and consume one another, perpetuating the cycle of killing and consumption, making it impossible to escape from the cycle of reincarnation. This is why Emperor Wu of Lian advocated for the complete removal of meat and alcohol from his imperial court. His ideals had a profound and lasting influence on Chinese society, and they greatly persuaded Mahayana Buddhist monks to prohibit meat consumption and alcohol even today. In my personal opinion, whether one follows Theravada or Mahayana Buddhism, the purpose of vegetarianism is to cultivate compassion, reduce anger, and observe the precept of non-harming. It encourages us to value the lives of all beings. When one possesses compassion, they naturally cannot bear to kill. Many people reflect on the cruelty involved in killing animals and have abandoned their desire for meat and fish, choosing instead to become vegetarians. This view is not limited to Buddhists. Many people in the West and from other religions around the world are adopting vegetarianism because of this belief in compassion. For lay Buddhists, it is important to reflect and decide for themselves what is right or wrong, what is ethical, and what aligns with the Buddha's teachings. Since this issue is understood and practiced differently by various Buddhist schools, you should study further and determine a way of eating that avoids contributing to harmful and unwholesome thoughts or actions that promote killing. In summary, according to the Theravada Buddhist perspective, you can choose to be vegetarian, or, if vegetarianism is financially or practically difficult, you may continue to consume meat without holding the intention to kill or contribute to killing, while still maintaining virtuous Buddhist conduct. From the Mahayana Buddhist viewpoint, ordained monks are strictly required to follow a vegetarian diet consisting of vegetables, plants, and fruits. For lay Buddhists, if they are able to maintain a vegetarian diet for their health and convenience, it is highly commendable. If not, lay practitioners are encouraged to observe vegetarianism on specific days, such as the 1st and 15th days of the lunar month, or during significant festivals, to cultivate compassion toward all beings. However, it is important not to assume that simply being vegetarian automatically makes one a good Buddhist. In Buddhism, vegetarianism cannot substitute for other forms of practice, such as following moral precepts and ethical conduct, as mentioned earlier. Buddhism emphasizes living according to the precepts and practicing mindfulness to purify the mind, which is what truly generates good karma and blessings. For instance, there are many people who are lifelong vegetarians, but when it comes to personal benefits or challenges, they can still become angry and engage in negative thoughts and actions against others. An example is of a vegetarian who, in a fit of anger, killed a dog that bit their young child. Meat-eating Buddhists often argue that even the Buddha himself ate meat when it was offered to him by others, yet he attained enlightenment. This suggests that vegetarianism is not the sole path to spiritual progress. When we consume meat, we are indirectly responsible for the death of an animal. However, even as vegetarians, we may still contribute to harm in other ways. For example, farmers tilling the land disturb ecosystems, impacting insects and small animals. They also use pesticides which kill many insects to grow the crops that vegetarians consume. Many animals and insects rely on plants as their habitat, and cultivating crops for human consumption also affects their survival. Ultimately, vegetarianism is often chosen because plants are perceived as less sentient than animals, but the broader impact on ecosystems should also be considered. But is it accurate to say that plants communicate in their own way? They require water and sunlight to survive, their seeds are alive, and their flowers are their means of reproduction. The Buddha taught that there are millions of living beings in a single glass of water. So why do vegetarians drink it? Do these microorganisms enjoy living inside our bodies? Of course, they do not. We impose such conditions because we need to survive. According to the Buddha's teachings, both vegetarians and meat eaters can reach a state of purity. The key lies in the quality of the mind, not in one's diet. Many Buddhists are deeply concerned about not eating meat, but they do not pay as much attention to changing their selfish, dishonest, cruel, or envious habits. Changing one's diet is easy, but changing the mind is much harder. Whether you are vegetarian or not, remember that purifying the mind and attaining a state of inner stillness, unaffected by external circumstances, is the most important aspect of Buddhism. This modern interpretation of Buddhism can be seen clearly in Japan, known as the land of the rising sun. Japan exhibits many unique and unusual characteristics, such as the fact that Buddhist monks there are free to eat meat, drink alcohol, marry, and have children, just like ordinary people. We are accustomed to thinking that those who have renounced the world have left behind worldly desires to purify their minds. Monks typically embrace a lifestyle of vegetarianism, recite the Buddha's teachings, and abandon all worldly ambitions, including starting a family, to fully dedicate themselves to spiritual practice. However, in Japan, things are different. Buddhist monks there lead a more worldly life, engaging in activities like eating meat, drinking alcohol, getting married, and having children, practices that stand in contrast to what is traditionally expected of monastic life elsewhere. This phenomenon surprises many Buddhists and those knowledgeable about Buddhism worldwide, finding it both unexpected and intriguing. For international visitors, it may seem unusual, but for professionals, it's considered a norm. So, why are Japanese monks allowed to marry, eat meat, and drink alcohol? Here's the explanation for this unique phenomenon. In the history of Japan, monks have been allowed to marry since the Heian period, and this practice continued through the Kamakura, Muromachi, and Edo periods, eventually becoming a tradition that persists to this day. In Japan and other East Asian countries, various Buddhist sects emerged, each with its own rules, practices, approaches, and interpretations. Some of the major Buddhist sects in Japan include Zen, Pure Land, and Nichiren. Later on, other groups such as Soka Gakkai and Nipponzan Myohoji were also established. Essentially, monks are not strictly required to remain celibate for life. While some monks in these sects choose to live solitary lives, others return to worldly life, marrying and having children. The decision to marry is left to the individual monk based on their own free will, while they still maintain their responsibilities to Buddhism. This tradition stems from the Meiji Restoration era. In 1868, the Meiji Restoration marked the end of the Tokugawa shogunate's 800-year rule and the beginning of the Meiji era, under the power of the emperor. This was a turning point for Japan, as the country opened up to the world and embarked on modernization. As part of this shift, anything related to the shogunate was dismantled or abolished, including certain aspects of Buddhism. Before the Meiji Revolution, from 1866 to 1869, Shinto and Buddhism were merged into a system called Shinbutsu Shugo. However, after Emperor Meiji came into power, Shinto was separated from Buddhism. Emperor Meiji, as a descendant of the Shinto deity Kami, distanced the nation from Buddhism, which had been supported by the shogunate. This resulted in the establishment of policies such as Haibutsu Kishaku, abolishing Buddhism and destroying Buddhist temples and statues, further cementing changes to the religious landscape of Japan. This event led to the destruction of temples, Buddhist images, and records, forcing many Buddhist monks to return to secular life. If you have watched our video on the decline of the Dharma, I believe this serves as a clear example. In 1872, the Meiji government issued the Nikojiku Saitai law, which allowed Buddhist monks to freely marry, eat meat, and drink alcohol, effectively normalizing their lives. This was seen as a way for the government to weaken Buddhism. While some monks chose to remain celibate, the majority adopted this change, and many Buddhist sects in Japan later followed a hereditary system. This meant that after a temple abbot passed away, his successor would typically be his son. A notable example is Shinran Shonin, born in 1173 and passing away in 1263, the founder of the Jodo Shinshu, True Pure Land sect of Japanese Buddhism. Shinran publicly married and had 7 children. His descendants continued to maintain and expand the sect's influence. Even today in Japan, there are matchmaking events for monks. Monks are seen as ideal marriage partners by Japanese women, as they are considered intellectuals, often with high incomes, permitted to run businesses, own their own homes, and are regarded as trustworthy, rarely engaging in extramarital affairs. These explanations help unravel the mystery of the private lives of Japanese monks. In Japan, the choice of whether to remain single or marry is left to the individual. As long as practitioners keep their hearts focused on the Buddha, that is considered sufficient. As Shinran, the founder of the Jodo Shinshu sect, is quoted as saying, "If expressing your faith in the Buddha is easier alone, then remain single. But if it is easier to do so with a spouse, then it is better to marry." This flexible perspective reflects the modern approach to Buddhism in Japan, where the focus remains on inner faith rather than strict adherence to monastic celibacy. The key point is how we express our faith in chanting and dedicating ourselves to the Buddha. What do you think about this perspective of Japanese Buddhism? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below. An interesting fact is that a monk can even combine Buddhism with music to convey messages in a more engaging way. For example, a Japanese monk went viral for singing Buddhist mantras in a rock style. This monk, Kankyo Yakushiji, recently gained online fame for his rock rendition of the Heart Sutra and the Great Compassion Mantra. Born in 1974 in Imabari, a city in Ehime Prefecture, Japan, his father was the abbot of Kaizenji Temple. In many Buddhist sects in Japan, the tradition of hereditary succession is common, meaning that after an abbot passes away, his son usually succeeds him. Therefore, Kankyo Yakushiji was raised from a young age to become a monk. As a child, Kankyo loved rock music, and at 20, he rebelled against his family's tradition and formed his own band to pursue his artistic dreams. "Music was my escape," he said. His early songs had a pop or folk influence and were mainly about family, friends, and his hometown. At 27, his band signed with a major record label. However, transitioning from being independent musicians to working in a professional environment left the band feeling lost. They no longer knew what message they wanted to convey and gradually lost their passion for singing.
How Maitreya will return in the future. The Buddha from the future. Welcome to Mind Podcast. Today we will explore a wondrous future of Earth in the year 2024, a world where flying cars fill the skies and robot chefs prepare our meals. There's something even more extraordinary on the horizon from Buddhism, a future superstar named Maitreya. In this video, I will reveal an exciting upcoming event, not a new meditation app, but the arrival of the next Buddha. Imagine an enlightened being so profound that the light from your phone pales in comparison. That is Maitreya, the beacon of hope in Buddhism. Do you wonder why the future of Buddhism matters? The story of Maitreya is like the ultimate trailer for the universe, filled with prophecies, miracles, and a forthcoming golden age that makes everything else seem small. In the next few minutes, we will delve into ancient Buddhist traditions and discover whether Maitreya will accept your friend request. Get ready for this fascinating journey and stay tuned for surprises. Seekers of wisdom and curiosity, are you ready to meet the Buddha of the future and unlock this mystery? Let's travel back to ancient India, where Buddhism first flourished around 500 BCE with Siddhartha Gautama, the original Buddha. He knew he was not the last enlightened one. Maitreya, the next light in the Buddha's legendary journey, will appear at the most crucial moment, bringing hope and enlightenment to us all. Maitreya is a significant figure in Buddhism, regarded as the future Buddha who will appear on earth to teach the Dharma when the teachings of Gautama Buddha have been forgotten or lost. Known as Dilak in Vietnamese and other Asian languages, Maitreya's name originates from the Sanskrit word Maitreya, meaning loving kindness. According to Buddhist scriptures, Maitreya will come in the future when the world needs a revival of the Dharma. He will achieve complete enlightenment and teach humanity. A saint, an ultimate enlightened being, Maitreya does not emerge from nowhere. The concept of future Buddhas has been deeply embedded in Indian thought for millennia. As the light of Buddhism spread, Maitreya became a spiritual beacon, capturing the reverence of millions of souls across Asia. Different Buddhist schools perceive Maitreya differently. Some see him as a bodhisattva, others as a future teacher. In some traditions, Maitreya symbolizes hope and light during dark times. In others, he is the ultimate teacher, imparting knowledge that amazes even the wisest monks. His influence spans from ancient cave paintings to modern art. For over 2 millennia, the image of Maitreya, the future Buddha, has inspired countless creative minds. Today, he remains a hot topic in Buddhist circles, influencing meditation, social movements, and leading many to seek signs of his arrival. His journey through various cultures and interpretations has significantly impacted Buddhist art and practice. Maitreya is not just a spiritual figure, but the next major symbol in Buddhism. His name in Sanskrit means the friendly one, or the loving one, representing pure love and compassion. According to Buddhist texts, he currently resides in a heavenly realm called Tushita, preparing for his appearance on earth. When he appears, Maitreya will become the next fully enlightened Buddha, bringing infinite wisdom and compassion. His sacred mission is to spread the true Dharma, reviving the precious teachings of the Buddha that have faded over time. He will reignite the spirit of Buddhism, shedding new light on the era. He will appear in a new age, revealing the true teachings of the Buddha and guiding beings to enlightenment. He is not just a future figure. For many Buddhists, he symbolizes hope and the potential for a brighter future. In Theravada Buddhism, Maitreya is seen as a future Buddha, but does not play a central role in daily practice. In contrast, Mahayana Buddhism views him as a comprehensive bodhisattva, who delays his Buddhahood to help sentient beings. In Vajrayana Buddhism, he possesses significant spiritual power, and some practices allow connection with his energy in the present. Chinese and Japanese Buddhist traditions also have their interpretations of him. The joyful, round Buddha statues are believed to be Maitreya in disguise, spreading joy. Some religious movements in 19th and 20th century Japan claimed their founders were reincarnations of Maitreya, uniting Buddhists in diversity. Prophecies about his grand return prepare for a cosmic event, but no one knows precisely when he will return. Be patient and continue your spiritual journey. According to Buddhist scriptures, we must wait until the teachings of the historical Buddha have entirely disappeared, leading to a spiritually dark age. Some Buddhist texts suggest this might occur after 5.6 billion years, when our sun may have considered retirement. Imagine a world rapidly declining, with abandoned morals and shortened lifespans. Just when things seem bleakest, Maitreya will appear, shining brighter than a supernova. He will possess impressive physical characteristics and superior intellect, making Einstein look like a preschooler. Some texts even say he will be taller than skyscrapers. But Maitreya isn't here to impress. His mission is to initiate a golden age, bringing world peace, spiritual awakening, and compassion that shatters karmic obstacles. In some traditions, Maitreya will preside over large Dharma assemblies, attracting billions like a combination of Woodstock and a UN summit. However, this future Buddha is not a lone hero. Some prophecies speak of an entire team of enlightened beings, like a superhero team of enlightenment, working together to help and save the spiritual world. Maitreya will stay for thousands of years, guiding countless beings to enlightenment, initiating a spiritual revolution on a galactic scale. Before you plan for this cosmic concert, remember that these prophecies are more inspirational than specific predictions. They are not the finale of Earth's season, but a source of inspiration for us to strive for a better future. Think of these prophecies as a motivational speech. They remind us that no matter how difficult things get, there is always hope for a brighter future. The story of Maitreya, the miracle worker and wisdom bearer, offers a vision of positive change and enduring hope. His teachings are profound and revolutionary, changing our understanding of reality. He will explain the Dharma in a way that fits his era, like an updated cosmic algorithm. One of Maitreya's greatest teachings is compassion. This is not just ordinary kindness, but transcendent love for the entire universe. He will share deep insights into the nature of reality, challenging our current understanding and explaining these ideas comprehensibly to everyone. The crux of this future Buddha's teachings is not just to expand minds, but to transform lives. His goal is to help all beings achieve enlightenment, starting a spiritual revolution on a galactic scale. Let's explore the miracles and teachings of Maitreya, the present inspiration, and the future Buddha. Maitreya's cultural impact has spanned centuries, shaping societies across Asia and beyond. His influence is more significant than you might think. First, let's talk about art. He has inspired countless paintings and sculptures, from massive stone carvings in China to intricate tanka in Tibet. This future Buddha has been a muse for the spiritual art of an entire continent. His influence does not stop at art. In many parts of Asia, he has become a symbol of hope and social change. When times are tough, people often turn to the idea of his appearance for comfort and inspiration. In China, the concept of Maitreya has sparked significant social movements, creating change on a large scale. Rebellions and secret societies have been influenced by the image of this future Buddha, with some individuals claiming to be his incarnation, creating grand expectations. Even politics hasn't escaped this impact. Some rulers in Buddhist countries have tried to align themselves with this symbol to increase their popularity, like a cosmic PR strategy for ancient politicians. In Hollywood, many see the popularity of Maitreya in various characters. For example, Neo in The Matrix is compared to him. Both bring hope to a dark world and promise awakening. Literature has not escaped this symbol's influence either. From science fiction to spiritual self-help books, authors have skillfully woven themes inspired by him into their works, demonstrating the enduring appeal and versatility of this concept. Comic books have reimagined Maitreya as a spiritual superhero, combating ignorance and spreading compassion, introducing Buddhist concepts to new audiences. Musicians from all genres, from indie rock to conscious hip-hop, have found inspiration in Maitreya, with references to this future Buddha if you listen closely. In the gaming world, he appears as a character in fighting games and inspires storylines in role-playing games. Game developers have creatively interpreted this spiritual concept. Television shows have tapped into Maitreya with references in sci-fi series or as subjects of documentaries. Clearly, he has found his way onto the small screen, extending his influence across cultural fields. The fashion world has noticed Maitreya's influence, from Buddha-inspired accessories to enlightenment-themed clothing lines. Maitreya's influence has even reached what we wear. On social media, you might come across memes about Maitreya. Yes, the future Buddha has found his way into internet culture with playful interpretations of his arrival. The future Buddha's presence in pop culture shows how spiritual ideas can transcend their original context. Whether appearing in films, music, or memes, he continues to inspire and offer hope for a better future, influencing environmental and social justice movements. Some believe he is hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right time to reveal himself. His cultural imprint is vast and varied, showcasing his enduring power and adaptability across ages. He is not just a religious symbol, but a global source of inspiration, captivating and spreading across many different fields. Imagine Maitreya and the Messiah, two of the most anticipated arrivals in history, appearing simultaneously. Comparing them reveals both their similarities and differences, showing the extensive influence and compelling allure of Maitreya. Appearing in times of hardship, these saviors act as problem solvers for the universe, coming when the world needs them most. They bring salvation and judgment, serving as both saviors and judges. Meanwhile, Maitreya arrives as a teacher, sharing wisdom and guiding people to enlightenment. Both figures are associated with major world transformations. The Messiah's presence is believed to usher in a divine kingdom, while Maitreya heralds a new golden age of spirituality and wisdom. These concepts symbolize not only change but also humanity's hope and aspiration for a better future. Imagine a radical improvement in the world's condition when Maitreya and the Messiah appear. Both have devoted followers, eagerly awaiting and seeking signs of them. The Messiah is part of a lineage of prophets in the Judeo-Christian tradition, while Maitreya is the successor of the Buddha in Buddhist thought. Both are key figures in great spiritual narratives, attracting numerous individuals claiming to be their incarnations, showcasing the strong allure of these concepts. A notable difference is that the Messiah is unique to the Judeo-Christian tradition, while the concept of Maitreya is diversely interpreted across Buddhist cultures. This reflects Buddhism's remarkable adaptability to different cultural contexts. Despite these differences, many modern thinkers view Maitreya and the Messiah as cultural expressions of a shared hope for a better future guided by higher wisdom. Maitreya and the Messiah are two long-awaited spiritual figures with fascinating similarities and differences. Whether you're awaiting a teacher or a judge, a new age, or a divine kingdom, both concepts reflect humanity's deep yearning for a brighter future. However, some clarifications are needed regarding Maitreya. A common misconception is that he is the Buddhist version of the Messiah. While there are some similarities, Maitreya does not come to judge or bring salvation like the Messiah. Instead, he is more like an all-encompassing teacher, coming to share wisdom and guide sentient beings to enlightenment. Another misunderstanding is that Maitreya will end the world. This is not true. He does not come with destructive intent, but to inaugurate a new era of spiritual understanding. Think of him as a reformer rather than a destroyer. And perhaps he is already here, hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to reveal himself. Although some individuals claim to be Maitreya, Buddhist texts describe his arrival as unmistakable, with distinctive physical characteristics and miraculous actions, impossible to miss or be kept secret. Some believe that worshipping Maitreya will hasten his arrival, but Buddhist teachings emphasize that the future Buddha's appearance depends on specific world conditions, not on the number of devotees. This is not a popularity contest. Another modern misconception is that Maitreya will lead a new world order, mixing Buddhist concepts with modern conspiracy theories. His mission is to bring spiritual enlightenment, not world domination or political control. Finally, some think that only Buddhists will benefit from Maitreya's appearance. However, Buddhist texts describe his teachings as beneficial for all beings, regardless of their faith. His wisdom is considered universal. Remember, when exploring spiritual concepts like Maitreya, it is crucial to consult reliable sources and understand the proper context. Misconceptions can easily spread, but true wisdom and compassion will always be the guiding light for all. However, a bit of knowledge can help you gain a deeper understanding of these ideas, much like life hacks inspired by Buddha Maitreya. You might wonder what all this talk about Maitreya means for you right now. Let's explore how to apply these ideas practically in daily life. First, find inspiration in everyday life. You don't need to wait for something extraordinary to start embodying good qualities. Instead, ask yourself what Maitreya would do when facing a challenge. This question can help you approach situations with more wisdom and compassion. The story of Maitreya provides a profound lesson about hope. When you feel disheartened by the state of the world, remember that even in Buddhist prophecies, positive change often comes after difficult times. This is a reminder to stay optimistic and strive for a better future. For those passionate about self-improvement, the concept of Maitreya offers an ideal model for personal growth. It encourages evolving to a higher state where wisdom and compassion guide every action. Applying Maitreya's principles to daily life not only helps you develop personally, but also contributes to creating a better world. Let his wisdom and compassion be your guiding light, helping you overcome challenges and seek positive change. Why not start now? Begin meditating, practicing kindness, and striving to develop wisdom as a way of preparing for enlightenment. Mindfulness practitioners can find inspiration in Maitreya's teachings on presence and awareness. The next time you are scrolling through your phone, take a moment to pause, look around, and be fully present. This is a small step towards deeper awareness. Maitreya symbolizes the dawn of a better era, starting with small but meaningful actions. Whether it's cleaning up your local park or developing a world-changing app, you are contributing to positive change. For those on a self-improvement journey, try setting goals inspired by him. Instead of focusing solely on material success, seek to enhance your compassion or deepen your understanding of yourself and others. Finally, remember that Maitreya symbolizes global unity and love. Practice understanding and reduce judgment in your daily interactions as a training for a kinder world. Every small action, from being present to showing compassion, contributes to building a better future for all. Let wisdom and compassion be your guiding light, helping you transform yourself and the world around you. Dear friends, we have traveled through time, space, and spiritual realms to explore the fascinating concept of Maitreya. What have we learned? Maitreya is not just a figure in Buddhist prophecy, but a symbol of hope, a catalyst for change, and a pop culture icon. His influence spans from ancient cave paintings to modern trends, from spiritual texts to superhero comics. The story of Maitreya is not just about waiting for a future savior, but embodying those ideals here and now. Becoming your future Buddha doesn't have to be lofty. So what can you do with this knowledge? Spread goodness through small acts like holding the door for someone, smiling at a stranger, or listening to a friend in need. Meanwhile, enhance your wisdom by continuously learning and growing to become more understanding and compassionate. Let Maitreya's wisdom and compassion guide you, helping you transform not just yourself, but also the world around you. Try reading a book, learning something new, or listening to others' perspectives as an exercise for your mind. When the world seems dark, keep hope alive. Remember, even in the darkest times, there is always the potential for a brighter future. Share what you've learned, tell a friend about Maitreya, or start a conversation about humanity's future. You can spark meaningful and interesting discussions. And that brings us to the end of our video. Thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope you always keep your curiosity alive, for there is so much more to discover in this world. Continue your quest for knowledge, as real change starts with you. Whether Maitreya comes tomorrow or billions of years from now, nurturing your wisdom, compassion, and mindfulness is helping create a better world. Keep spreading positive energy, and who knows, you might help bring about the golden age sooner. Stay curious, stay kind, and let the light of the Buddha within you shine brightly. See you in the next video. Do you dare to uncover this truth about Buddhism and Christianity? Welcome back, everyone, to Mind Podcast. The teachings of the Buddha and Jesus, along with profound insights from scholars, prompt us to ask, what truly differentiates their philosophies? Today, we will explore a fascinating subject, the philosophical differences between the Buddha and Jesus, and OSO's shocking views on suffering and transformation. How can interfaith dialogue create miraculous changes? What are the hidden secrets behind the rituals of Buddhism and Christianity that you have never known? Get ready to open the door to deep and surprising philosophies. Philosophical differences. The philosophical teachings of the Buddha and Jesus provide profound insights into the nature of the universe, existence, and the human condition. Their perspectives on free will and determinism offer a stark contrast between Buddhist philosophy and Christian doctrine, enriching our understanding of both religious traditions. Renowned physicist Stephen Hawking's commentary further illuminates these differences from a scientific viewpoint, connecting ancient wisdom with modern scientific thought. Philosophical views on the universe and existence of the Buddha and Jesus. The Buddha's philosophical stance is based on the principles of anicca, impermanence, dukkha, suffering, and anatta, non-self. He taught that all conditioned phenomena are impermanent. Life inherently involves suffering, and there is no permanent, unchanging self. The Buddha viewed the universe as a vast interdependent web, where everything affects everything else through the law of karma, action and result. This perspective emphasizes a cyclical understanding of existence known as samsara, where life and death occur continuously until enlightenment is achieved. In contrast, the teachings of Jesus, as presented in the Christian Bible, often emphasize a personal relationship with the supreme eternal God who created the universe with purpose and order. Jesus spoke of a divine plan in which individuals have intrinsic value and an eternal soul. In this view, the universe is governed by God's providence, and humans play a significant role in God's eternal story. Jesus's message about the kingdom of God evokes a linear and teleological perspective of history, culminating in the ultimate reconciliation of the world with God. Differences in views on free will and determinism. The concept of free will versus determinism is another area where the Buddha and Jesus offer different insights. Buddhist philosophy, especially through the lens of dependent origination, suggests that all events and conditions arise from an interconnected web of causes and effects. This view implies a form of determinism, where free will is often seen as an illusion because individuals' actions are influenced by past karma and present conditions. Conversely, Christian doctrine, influenced by Jesus' teachings, strongly supports the existence of free will. According to Christian theology, God grants humans the freedom to choose between good and evil, making them morally responsible for their choices. This free will is central to the Christian understanding of sin and redemption, where individuals must choose to accept God's grace through faith in Jesus. Insights from scientists like Stephen Hawking on these differences. Stephen Hawking, a renowned theoretical physicist, offered a scientific perspective that can be seen as a secular echo of these philosophical debates. Hawking's exploration of the origins and structure of the universe, detailed in works like A Brief History of Time, discusses determinism in the context of the physical laws governing the universe. He suggested that if we could know the position and state of every particle in the universe, the future and past would be entirely deterministic. However, he also acknowledged the limitations of this view, particularly with the advent of quantum mechanics, which introduces unpredictability or randomness at the subatomic level. Hawking's insights resonate with Buddhist concepts of interdependence and impermanence, and with the Christian understanding of an ordered universe governed by clear laws, but still allowing room for divine or existential mysteries. His work invites both religious traditions to reconsider the nature of free will and determinism in light of modern understanding. Conclusion. The philosophical teachings of the Buddha and Jesus on the universe, existence, and free will offer rich, contrasting viewpoints that have shaped the spiritual lives of millions. These teachings reflect their distinct historical and cultural contexts and provide valuable frameworks for modern scholars to understand the complex interaction between determinism and free will. Insights from science, especially from figures like Stephen Hawking, enrich this dialogue, demonstrating that both religious and scientific communities can benefit from the continuous exchange of ideas on these profound subjects. The Buddha and Jesus, Osho's perspectives on suffering, death, and transformation. In exploring spiritual teachings, few voices are as distinctive and challenging as Osho's. His interpretations and teachings provide a unique lens through which to view the messages of the Buddha and Jesus, particularly regarding the nature of suffering, death, and the potential for human transformation. This chapter delves into Osho's provocative insights, drawing from his numerous discourses and interactions to contrast and illuminate the teachings of these two pivotal figures. Understanding death and suffering. Through Osho's eyes, discourse on death presents a radical departure from traditional religious teachings. In a profound story, he tells of a grieving mother in a village whose child had just died. The Buddha advises her to find a household that has never experienced death and take food from there to revive her child. This impossible task was designed to demonstrate the universality of death, underscoring Osho's view that death is an essential, unavoidable aspect of life. He criticizes the superficiality of seeking miracles to avoid or reverse death, suggesting instead that understanding and accepting the inevitability of death can lead to deep personal growth and eternal peace. This mind is inherently unborn and undying, and without delusion. Not realizing this, thinking that thoughts are things that exist, you wander in the habits of life and death. contrasting teachings on resurrection and miracles, Osho often juxtaposed the teachings of the Buddha with those of Jesus, particularly in the context of miracles. He noted that while Jesus performed miracles like raising Lazarus from the dead, the Buddha would never engage in such acts. For Osho, these miracles, though appealing to the faithful, do not address the fundamental issue that all beings must ultimately face death. Even if Lazarus comes back to life, it makes no difference. He still has to die. In the end, Lazarus must die, so this miracle has no ultimate value, Osho asserted. Osho argued that true compassion and sensitivity involve helping individuals understand and accept life's impermanence rather than shielding them from it with miraculous interventions. This perspective challenges followers to confront their fears and illusions directly, fostering a deeper, more authentic engagement with spiritual growth. The inevitability of death and the illusion of historical significance. In his discussions, Osho frequently revisited the idea that history and its events are less significant than the eternal truths of existence. He criticized Christianity's emphasis on the historical narrative, particularly the division of time into before and after Christ, suggesting that such distinctions are both arbitrary and misleading. The real division happened 25 centuries ago with Gautama the Buddha. A true history should refer to the Buddha. Any event should be described as before Buddha or after Buddha, Osho stated. This assertion places the Buddha at the center of historical consciousness, emphasizing his role in transforming human awareness. Osho's critique extends to a broader understanding of religious teachings, advocating for a direct, experiential approach to spirituality that transcends historical and cultural boundaries. Osho's call to return to one's roots mirrors the misunderstood teachings of Jesus on repentance, which Osho interprets as a call to return to one's true nature. He invites a re-evaluation of spiritual practices. This reinterpretation aligns closely with his broader teachings on awareness and self-realization, where the ultimate goal is not adherence to religious dogma, but awakening to one's true nature. The only way to understand the Buddha is to become a Buddha. Never be a Buddhist, be a Buddha. Never be a Christian, be a Christ. By advocating for personal transformation through the identification with the divine, Osho challenges followers to transcend traditional labels and attain a direct, personal understanding of spiritual truths. Osho's perspectives offer a challenging yet enriching complement to the teachings of the Buddha and Jesus. His emphasis on understanding the nature of suffering and death, his skepticism towards miracles, and his advocacy for a direct, experiential approach to spirituality encourage a deeper, more personal exploration of one's spiritual path. Through his teachings, Osho not only illuminates the messages of historical spiritual figures, but also invites modern seekers to embark on a transformative journey toward understanding and enlightenment. The importance of interfaith dialogue. In a world that is increasingly interconnected, yet still affected by religious and ideological conflicts, interfaith dialogue is not just beneficial, but essential. The teachings of the Buddha and Jesus, despite originating from different traditions, offer profound wisdom that can significantly contribute to mutual understanding and respect among different faiths. Figures like the Dalai Lama and Thich Nhat Hanh are pivotal in promoting this dialogue, emphasizing shared values and addressing the inherent challenges in these multicultural exchanges. The Buddha's teachings on compassion, impermanence, and interdependence lay the groundwork for open dialogue by fostering an attitude of acceptance and understanding of change and differences. His doctrine encourages looking beyond one's immediate perspectives, acknowledging the deep connection between all beings. This can help mitigate conflicts arising from rigid ideological stances. Similarly, Jesus' teachings on love, forgiveness, and the kingdom of God encourage reaching out to others, emphasizing the need for love to transcend all boundaries, including religious ones. For example, his parable of the Good Samaritan serves as a profound reminder that help should extend beyond one's community or religion, promoting universal brotherhood. Together, these teachings advocate for a dialogue rooted in mutual respect, where differences are not only tolerated, but valued as essential components of the complex human tapestry. The role of thinkers, like the Dalai Lama and Thich Nhat Hanh in promoting mutual understanding. The Dalai Lama, a figure of immense moral authority and spiritual insight, has consistently emphasized the importance of understanding and learning from other religions. His engagement with leaders from various faiths, including Christianity, Islam, and Hinduism, exemplifies Buddhist principles applied to promote global peace and understanding. His book, Beyond Religion, Ethics for a Whole World, outlines a framework for secular ethics that transcends religious boundaries, advocating for universal human values. Thich Nhat Hanh, renowned for his accessible teaching style and emphasis on mindfulness, has brought Buddhist insights into dialogue with Christian practices. His book, Living Buddha, Living Christ, has been influential in showing how Buddhists and Christians can find common ground in mindfulness and devotion, enriching their spiritual lives while fostering a deeper appreciation for each other's paths. Challenges and opportunities in Buddhist-Christian dialogue. While there are many opportunities for enriching understanding, interfaith dialogue also faces significant challenges. Doctrinal differences, historical conflicts, and contemporary political tensions can overshadow the shared values and mutual respect that dialogue seeks to promote. For example, the exclusivist claims of some Christian denominations may conflict with Buddhist teachings on non-self and non-attachment, leading to misunderstandings about the goals and nature of salvation and enlightenment. However, these challenges also present opportunities to engage with difficult questions, leading to a deeper understanding of one's faith and a greater appreciation for others' beliefs. Discussing the concept of salvation in both Buddhism and Christianity can help clarify misunderstandings and reveal fundamental similarities, such as the transformative journey of the soul toward enlightenment or union with the divine. The efforts of the Dalai Lama and Thich Nhat Hanh, along with the foundational teachings of the Buddha and Jesus, provide crucial blueprints for interfaith dialogue. By focusing on shared values while respecting doctrinal differences, they pave the way for a future where religious and spiritual traditions can coexist peacefully, contributing to a richer, more compassionate global community. The ongoing dialogue between Buddhism and Christianity not only bridges two of the world's major religions, but also serves as a model for other faiths to engage in meaningful and constructive interactions, embracing diversity for a peaceful future. Throughout our exploration of the teachings and philosophical perspectives of the Buddha, Jesus, and modern thinkers like Osho, we have traversed a vast landscape of spiritual thought and wisdom. Each chapter has not only presented the core ideas and practices of these influential figures, but also highlighted the profound need to understand and appreciate the diversity within our global spiritual heritage. This concluding chapter aims to summarize the key points discussed, emphasizing the importance of interfaith study and advocating for continued dialogue and research as tools for building a more peaceful world. The teachings of the Buddha and Jesus, analyzed through various lenses, including those of esteemed philosophers and modern mystics, offer us timeless wisdom on suffering, salvation, love, compassion, and the practical applications of these teachings in daily life. The Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path of the Buddha, along with Jesus' message of love and divine redemption, provide foundational insights for overcoming personal and collective challenges. Meanwhile, figures like Osho challenge us to reconsider the nature of these teachings, urging a return to the roots and an inner journey that transcends traditional religious boundaries. Philosophical discussions highlight differences in views on the universe, existence, free will, and determinism, revealing a rich tapestry of thought spanning cultures and ages. These discussions are not merely academic. They have real-world implications for how we understand and interact with the universe and each other. Through the perspectives of modern scientists and philosophers, we see how contemporary thought intersects with and often challenges traditional doctrines, pushing the boundaries of what we know and how we believe. The crucial role of interfaith understanding. In a world increasingly divided by ideological and religious lines, studying and understanding various religious traditions are not just academic exercises but necessary steps toward global peace. Each tradition offers unique insights into the human condition, and together they hold the keys to addressing some of today's most pressing ethical and moral issues. By engaging with these diverse teachings, we not only broaden our spiritual horizons, but also foster a deeper respect for others' beliefs and practices. This exploration has shown that despite apparent differences, there are common threads connecting all major spiritual teachings. These include the pursuit of inner peace, the quest for understanding, and the expression of love and compassion towards all beings. Recognizing and focusing on these commonalities can greatly enhance mutual respect and facilitate more meaningful intercultural and interfaith interactions. A call for continuous dialogue and research. The insights gained from the teachings of the Buddha, Jesus, and thinkers like Osho are just the beginning of truly harnessing the power of these teachings to create change and build peace. Ongoing dialogue and research are essential. Each generation must take up the torch of interfaith dialogue, not only to preserve these teachings, but also to adapt and apply them to the changing circumstances of our world. Academic institutions, religious organizations, and community groups play crucial roles in this ongoing effort. These are the arenas where challenging discussions can take place and new understandings can be forged. These discussions must be inclusive, involving voices from various religious and philosophical backgrounds to ensure a comprehensive approach to global challenges. Furthermore, as we advance technologically and expand our reach into the universe, these philosophical and spiritual teachings can guide us in maintaining ethical standards and a sense of responsibility towards each other and our planet. Collaboration between scientists, philosophers, theologians, and educators is vital in shaping policies and practices that reflect our diverse values while promoting peace and sustainability toward a future of peace and understanding. In conclusion, let us apply the lessons learned from the Buddha, Jesus, and modern philosophers to our lives and communities. Together, let's build bridges and open channels of communication to overcome our differences. In doing so, we can turn the dream of a peaceful world into reality, grounded in an understanding and appreciation of our shared experiences and rich spiritual heritage. This journey of discovery and understanding is ongoing, and every step we take together, with open minds and compassionate hearts, brings us closer to a world of peace and understanding.